Hello everyone, this is Samuel Hairston. I'm recording a little video because I feel like I haven't recorded a YouTube video in a pretty long time. And so I just thought I would kind of talk a little bit about movies and shows. The reason I want to talk about it is because I have been getting into a lot of films and shows as of late. And this is because I'm actually kind of thinking of maybe becoming maybe a film director at some point. I have been watching uh, a lot of movies on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Criterion, Tubi, Hoopla, Canopy. I think I'm pronouncing that right. YouTube, if it's free on YouTube. I want to say that's it as of right now on official streaming services that I use, um, that I have subscriptions for. And I have been watching, again, a lot of movies and shows. I have been getting interested in acclaimed film directors, um, also actors and musicians, because I have interest in those things as well. I thought I would go through some uh, of my Letterboxd movies and just kind of talk about it for a while. And I just feel like that'd be a good little YouTube video. Plus, no editing. It'll just be me talking to a camera. Alright, so I accidentally ended the video last time. So, right after I said I wouldn't make any edits. So, ironic, eh? But I'm just gonna continue recording. Um, as I was uh, trying to say, I'm gonna go through my list of films. So on the top of my list is Stop Making Sense, released 1984, directed by Jonathan Demme. It's a concert film directing Talking Heads at the height of their popularity. On tour for their 1983 album Speaking in Tongues, the band takes the stage one by one and is joined by a cadre of guest musicians for a career-spanning and cinematic performance that features creative choreography and visuals. That's the description of the film on Letterboxd. And Talking Heads is one of my favorite bands of all time. It's definitely up there with the Beatles, um, and Death Grips, and my other favorite bands. I just think they're so full of energy, and I also think their sound was so unique. I loved how it had influences of Afrobeat and just really funky music, but also maintaining a punk edge to it as well. Um, yeah, and David Byrne is a really fantastic individual. I really like watching videos from David Byrne or featuring David Byrne, and it's an amazing concert film. Um, yeah, the dance moves, the music, the vibes, just incredible. Um, and the performances are just so insane. The choreography, the energy. I mean, that bass player, is kicking his feet in the air. It's really dopamine or happiness in a really pure form, and it's just so technical. And I mean, you could put this movie on at any time and feel better. Really, it's just so incredible, and I definitely recommend checking this out. especially since I believe um, this movie got a restoration, um, I believe this year. So you can even watch a higher quality version of this movie now. So, that's uh, amazing. Another movie on my list, number two on my list so far, is Stalker, released 1979, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky. Near a gray and unnamed city is the Zone, a place guarded by barbed wire and soldiers, and where the normal laws of physics are victim to frequent anomalies. A stalker guides two men into the Zone, specifically to an area in which deep-seated desires are granted. Um, this film is striking. It's really beautiful, and it's a slow cinema film, which means there's emphasis on long shots, um, and that's actually something that you can find in a lot of Andrei Tarkovsky's works. I've only watched, I want to say about three or two of his films so far, but I mean, I could tell by I've been looking at a lot of stats and movie genres and whatnot, and whenever slow cinema appears, some Andrei Tarkovsky films would be mentioned or listed. And this film, it really is like magical. It's really magical. Um, and you can feel very immersed while watching it. And it's a science fiction movie, even though there's no like depictions of aliens or anything. Um, and the location where they filmed it is incredible. Unfortunately, some of the actors and even the director himself, got radiation from the spot, which is extremely unfortunate. But besides that, I love the long camera shots, and it had great characters and great cinematography. And I just feel like it's such an amazing film. I'd really recommend uh, checking it out, definitely. And check out some Andrei Tarkovsky's other works. Um, I ordered a book. It should arrive at some point called Sculpting in Time, and it's written by Andrei Tarkovsky. And I'm excited to maybe check that out once I get time to read it. The third thing on the list is a show, Twin Peaks, released 1989, directed by David Lynch. An idiosyncratic, I definitely butchered the spelling on that, FBI agent investigates the murder of a young woman in the town of Twin Peaks. Now, unfortunately on Letterboxd, they don't have full-on TV shows on the platform yet. I'm hoping for January 8th, 2025. Hopefully they'll release it then. But a lot of people who rate this on Letterboxd, um, they treat it like they're rating the show most of the time. And yeah, technically this was released as a movie first, and then it got picked up as a show. And I love Twin Peaks. I also love Twin Peaks: The Return, which hopefully I'll get into that movie soon. I mean show. I just think both are incredible, and I really love David Lynch's work so far. He's probably either top one or top two most watched directors um, that I've seen so far. Um, and yeah, it's a murder mystery, and it's really not only does it have a beautiful soundtrack, the soundtrack is beautiful, but it also has the oh my gosh, it's so vibrant, it's so late 80s, it's so just beautiful, good music. from Angelo Badalamenti and Julie Cruz. Also has really good actor Kyle MacLachlan, I think it's pronounced. Again, there's just great acting and vibes all around, and not to mention it's very surreal. And when this came out, Twin Peaks, the show, you would hear people saying when it was released that it was like breaking a lot of rules of TV at the time. And so this is kind of like proto modern TV, really, just because it was just so unconventional at the time. And it was recorded in Washington, um, and there's a lot of sets, like like it could be at a bar, it could be at like a lake house, it could be at a casino, um, and not to mention, I really feel like the show is just so incredibly strong and surreal. Um, and season one and season two are absolutely fantastic. Season two, a little less since there is some episodes in season two. Um, there are just some arcs that are a bit filler. But besides that, still will wholeheartedly recommend this film. It was fantastic to watch this with my parents and how they would like theorize about what's going to happen or happen next. Yeah. And my dad called me at Virginia Tech and was talking to me about some of the crazy subplots that were happening in season two. Um, yeah, it's just such a thrilling and engaging show. And when an event happens, you'd think, man, what are the townspeople going to think or behave about this, you know? And there's so much to dissect with the show. Um, and I really wish a third season of the show wasn't canceled, because it was supposed to have a third season, but it got canceled. And then they had Twin Peaks to return in 2017, so I guess that's technically a third season. But it would have been interesting to see a third season of the show, definitely. Yeah, the music, you gotta listen to the music. It's really amazing. Anyway, my fourth movie, I'm sorry, my fourth item on the list is another show, Monster, released 2004. It's directed by a lot of people. A lot of it's a Japanese animated film show, and Japanese animated stuff is specifically called anime. Um, and so, a show like this, it's directed by a lot of people because, a lot of people got to animate this, And not to mention, it's an adaptation of someone's work. Um, Let me find his name. Naoki Urasawa. And I've been really enjoying this guy's work because he wrote this show, Monster. But he also wrote Pluto, which I really loved, and 20th Century Boys, which I haven't read yet, but I've heard from a lot of people that's really good. And so the show is about Kinzu Tenma, a Japanese brain surgeon in Germany, finds his life in utter turmoil after getting involved with a psychopath that was once a former patient. This show is fantastic. Um, Again, it's never a crime mystery show, but I really do believe it has some of the best side characters in any show I've ever watched. It's just, it's so thrilling. There's a lot of subplots that happen, like Dr. Tema will find someone who's facing kind of a moral dilemma or have an interesting backstory, and it's just so, it's all about humanity and the world around us. I'm just looking at Letterboxd themes, but it really is. Because there's this like one episode with like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the man in the forest with the bird. That was a really amazing episode in my opinion. And again, good side characters. Mr. Grimmer was a great character, especially Johann, great antagonist in the series. And I also rewatched this one with my dad as well. And it's a really philosophical show and heartbreaking. Really philosophical and heartbreaking. The fifth item on my list is Harakiri, released 1962, directed by Masaki Kobayashi. Down on his luck veteran Tsugumo Hanshiro enters the courtyard of the prosperous house of Yi. Unemployed and with no family, he hopes to find a place to commit seppuku, and a worthy second to deliver the coup de grace in his suicide ritual. The senior counselor for the Ei clan questions the Ronin's resolve and integrity, suspecting Hanshiro of seeking charity rather than an honorable end. What follows is a pair of interlocking stories which lay bare the difference between honor and respect, and promises to examine the legendary foundations of the samurai code. This movie is one of the best. It's really one of the best movies because how the story presents itself is amazing. It's generally one of the best ways I've seen a story being told, really. And I love how it really focuses on honor, code, um, this kind of epic heroism. And the director, Masaki Kobayashi, he does a lot of samurai films, similar to Akira Kurosawa, who we'll definitely see on my list. I love both of their work. They're both great directors, and they both make samurai movies. And I personally believe samurai movies is really up there on just some of the best cinema movies. I really recommend checking out some samurai movies on the Criterion collection. Um, yeah, it's a really powerful watching as well. And I watched this with my parents. They both seemed to like it, or at least thought it was interesting. Um, yeah, it can be a tearjerker, I'll say that. But it generally features one of the best samurai protagonists. And again, best story structure and just gripping and engaging. It can really have you on the edge of your seat. Also, it has one of my favorite actors in it, Tatsuya Nakadi. I most likely said it wrong. But this person, despite him being, a foreign actor, has become one of my highest rated actors on the Letterboxd website. And this guy is really a chameleon, because he can be in a movie and you wouldn't even realize like it's him, you know? He has a lot of different faces, and again, large part of that is because he worked with Akira Kurosawa and Masaki Kobayashi, as well as featuring in some experimental works like The Face of Another as well. And I mean, this guy really blends in with some of his roles. Like I didn't even realize he was uh, uh, Lord Hidatari or Hidatora in Akira Kurosawa's Ran, which I'll get into. Because he has a lot of makeup on, like because he's like an old person in this movie. And High and Low, he plays as a chief detective. But these people's personalities are just so different that you wouldn't even be able to say, with your mind, like that person who was in Harakiri and Ran was also in the Human Condition trilogy, which I loved. I loved the Human Condition trilogy. 3 movies, all based on a novel, also written by Masaki Kobayashi, and I'll definitely be getting more into that as well, further along the list. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about Harakiri right now. So I'll move on to the next movie on the list, Come and See, released 1985, directed by Ilham Klimov. The invasion of a village in Byelorussia by German forces sends young Floria into the forest to join the weary resistance fighters against his family wishes. There he meets a girl, Glasha, who accompanies him back to his village. On returning home, Flora finds his family and fellow peasants massacred. His continued survival amidst the brutal debris of war becomes increasingly nightmarish, a battle between despair and hope. This movie is so powerful. I know I've been saying that quite a bit, but I think a movie and show really works best when it doesn't exactly have to be powerful in a sense, but specifically has a way that it just makes you really understand what they're going for, what the characters are thinking, how this is affecting people. A good, focus on that can really make a show or movie, I see. It's a great film about World War II. It's strikingly chilling. The actor who plays the main character, Flora, it just such a phenomenal job. I mean, this movie is so it's just you won't be the same person after you see it. It's just it's so horrifying the war is, and how this guy is treated, and it's just really sad. Just a really sad movie. The next movie on the list, number 7 on the list, is Neon Genesis Evangelion: The End of Evangelion, released 1997, directed by Hideki Anno, who also did the show Neon Genesis Evangelion. So this is, I guess, it's a movie, and the reason it was released was because when the original show came out, the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion, a lot of people were disappointed by the final 2 episodes, the ending of the show. And so Hideki Anno made a movie to kind of, what's the word, compensate for that, or overcome that, to make those people that are like, you didn't like the ending of my TV show, well, here's a much bigger ending. And it still doesn't, change a whole lot, but it's just some of the most ethereal animation shown in this movie. Not to mention some really disturbing but also really beautiful things are shown in this film as well. I won't say the full-on description of this movie since me and my parents are watching the original show, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and we'll hopefully get into this movie after watching it. But it's Yeah, it aired to specifically make up for those final two episodes uh, were controversial for their abstract direction. It didn't have a full-on satisfying conclusion as a lot of shows would push for. And this is another Japanese anime movie. It features a lot of iconic voice actors and actresses in it. And what can I say? I can't even explain what happens in this movie. It's one of the craziest movies ever. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend checking out the show and the movie. Although I think I would recommend subtitles over the English dubbed version, just because some characters, like Asuka, can be quite annoying at first, I'll say. And I do think it does take some episodes for the show to really, really shine. But besides that, great show, great movie. And speaking of another great show, number 8 on the list is Cowboy Bebop, released 1998. It takes place in 2071, roughly 50 years after an accident with a hyperspace gateway made the Earth almost uninhabitable. Humanity has colonized most of the rocky planets and moons of the solar system. Amid a rising crime rate, the Intersolar System Police (ISSP) set up a legalized contract system in which registered bounty hunters, also referred to as cowboys, chase criminals and bring them in alive in return for a reward. So it's like a space western TV show. And I'll say it's really one of the best animes to exist. The soundtrack is incredible. Check out that soundtrack. I believe the musical artist behind the soundtrack is Seatbelts. Great jazz, great anime opening. Spike Spiegel, the main character of this anime, is one of the most iconic and so interesting main characters in a show. Not to mention, I really think it's one of those shows where almost all the characters really shine, and a lot happens in each different episode, um, and so you get some side stories happening with the other characters, and I just really just it's incredible, truly spectacular. It's a masterpiece, it's a classic, um, and I remember watching the show. Um, during a kind of rough period of my life, I was really sick. I had this Monster energy drink, and I drank it while I was doing this kind of like hiking thing for school. And so it was like really hot out. I was pretty much chugging this Monster energy drink, and I was eating M&M's candy because we just went to a store and we had to like buy something to kind of like I guess make up for how bad the trip was. But yeah, it was just extremely hot, dry, and when I woke up, I was feeling horrible. So horrible. It was like I was feeling kind of like numb in my body, and I was just feeling I don't know what happened. It was like maybe too much sugar or too much maybe my heart rate went up, I think. It was a really scary time. But when you watch this show, I really felt normal and comfortable even during this dark time. If I really glad I watched this show specifically during that time because I was getting to deal with getting back into, my regular life, my regular habits, and I think seeing Spike Spiegel's kind of transformation from the beginning to the episode to the final episode. It, it you know, I'd say it was optimistic. I'd say that it felt like, you know, after I was done being sick, I'm gonna do some good things or continue on doing what I was doing. But yeah, this show really amazing. I believe I rewatched this with my dad as well. I rewatched a lot of anime shows with my dad. Number 9 on the list is the film Ran, which I briefly talked about. Released in 1985, directed by Akira Kurosawa. And it's a reimagining of Shakespeare's King Lear as a singular historical epic set in 16th century Japan. Majestic in scope, the film is Kurosawa's late-life masterpiece, a profound examination of the folly of war and the crumbling of one family under the weight of betrayal, greed, and the insatiable thirst for power. Neat fact about this movie, Akira Kurosawa was just kind of becoming a bit blind while he was making this. This is like a late era Akira Kurosawa movie. And so he had painted he was painting what he wanted the film to look like and had like someone else kind of turn that into a scene. So what that ended up being was making this film extremely colorful, extremely vibrant. The colors in this movie are incredible. The acting, the story is incredible. I don't know much about Shakespeare's King Lear, so if you know that story, maybe this is like a spoiler, but it is a reimagining of that story. And yeah, characters are incredible, stories, the battles, um, the main character has kind of like this dementia thing going on after he's pretty much he doesn't even think he's going to live through this thing, but he somehow does, and he's like, there is so much stuff to dissect in this movie, and I'd really recommend checking this out as long as you can handle some tragedy. But it's really among one of the best Akira Kurosawa movies that I have seen, and it's just so epic. And I love the family drama that's going on between it's a father with 3 kids, and things just go so terribly wrong so quickly. Number 10 on the list is Twin Peaks: The Return, which I also briefly mentioned. Released 2017, directed by David Lynch, picks up 25 years after the inhabitants of a quaint northwestern town are stunned when their homecoming queen is murdered. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure if that description really fits Twin Peaks: The Return. It's mainly, Twin Peaks: The Return, a lot of the scenes don't even really, a lot of the scenes with the main character from Twin Peaks, Colin McLean, he's not even in Twin Peaks most of the time. It takes place, well, 25 years after the original Twin Peaks show, but it does its best to try to, if you saw how the original Twin Peaks had that kind of cliffhanger ending, it kind of continues from that a little bit, even after the time jump. And it has some really amazing acting. I love the surrealness of the show. It's way more violent than the previous show, and I think that's because a lot of it seems to be kind of parroting or kind of reimagining the third wave of the golden age of TV, where like Sopranos and Breaking Bad, Mad Men, like all these kind of like or Dexter, like all these kind of gritty shows that were becoming like popular on the TV during this time. So this is kind of like David Lynch's version of those kinds of shows. And again, there's still mysteries, there's still thrillers, a lot of more unanswered questions in the show. Not to mention, I just love seeing some of the original cast come back for this. I also like how they just the emphasis on kind of like now that they're old and whatnot, they have to deal with like aging and stuff like that. I like to focus on some of that as well. And when you watch this show, you're just like your mind's just blown. And again, Kyle MacLachlan, he does a great job of playing like three different characters or like three different types of a character. And again, it can be scary and terrifying. Almost cried, and your mind is just warped, and insane things will just be thrown at you, like episode 8 of Twin Peaks Return, where it's just like it emphasizes like the first like nuke testing and how it's like this like birth of evil, and it's a genuinely amazing sequence. It's so slow, and I just really enjoy it. And I definitely need to watch a couple videos explaining what I saw there. Yeah. When I rewatched it with my parents, my dad said I was like Cooper. That might be the best compliment I've ever gotten. But yeah, it's generally an amazing, amazing show. Um, I would like to continue, but I don't know how long I've been talking. So I'm gonna just focus on top 10 things I've mentioned so far. Stopping Makes Sense, Stalker, Twin Peaks, Monster, Harakiri, Come and See, The End of Neon Genesis Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, Ran, and Twin Peaks to Return. So, as you may have noticed, I have a definitely a love for the surreal. I think a lot of movies and shows can really be used to express a lot of surreal ideas and themes. Stalker, the Twin Peaks, the anime. Um, they're just so good at I love this kind of like beautiful and ethereal feeling with pretty much all of these movies. I mean, I think all of these movies and shows I just mentioned are stunning, and not just lighting wise, but like color wise, story wise, just also beautiful at that. I also mentioned in this list there's about free anime so far in this top 10. Monster, The End of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Cowboy Bebop. I think I really do love animation, and I especially love the animation of these shows because this isn't 3D animated. Like this is stuff you would have to get like paper and a pen to draw on, and I think it's just so beautiful. Handcrafted animation. I don't think it was done digitally, but I could be wrong. But The End of Neon Genesis was released in 1997, Cowboy Bebop 1998, Monster 2004. But still, it's just there's something really special about 90s anime. Again, the colors, the visuals. Putting so much work into animating all those frames is just incredible. Again, I wholeheartedly recommend any of these movies if you can, stomach some or handle some or have an open mind to some of these films. And yeah, I would just say, um, trying to see if there's any reoccurring actors or directors in this list so far. I know Tetsuya Nakade, who I mentioned, appeared in two of the movies in my top 10 so far, Harakiri and Ran. Um, David Lynch has appeared twice for Twin Peaks and Twin Peaks Return. Um, there is a chance that someone who was maybe on the direction team of Cowboy Bebop and maybe Evangelion or Monster would appear there. Again, a lot of those anime shows have a bunch of different directors all making something because, these things were pretty big projects. And yeah, besides that, I'm not seeing a whole lot of other similarities that are coming across the mind right now. So, I guess I'll just be talking about the next uh, movies, 11 to 15. On my number 11 spot is the film Apocalypse Now, released 1979, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. At the height of the Vietnam War, Captain Benjamin Willard is sent on a dangerous mission that officially does not exist, nor will it ever exist. His goal is to locate and eliminate a mysterious Green Beret colonel named Walter Kurtz, who has been leading his personal army on illegal guerrilla missions into enemy territory. First things first, amazing soundtrack, beautiful visuals. There's even some dreamlike sequences as well, and it's just this epic adventure, and it's so intense. There's different versions of this film, so I definitely recommend checking out, whatever the internet says is the best version of this film. I think I watched the quote-unquote best version of the film, and yeah, it's powerful, it's dirty, it's just, again, same thing I could say about some of the other war movies that have been on the list so far. It's just, I mean, even if you're not seeing people being gunned down right in front of you, it's just, you can see the toll that's taking on these people. And, I'd like to mention Francis Ford Coppola for a second. He was, he directed the Godfather movies, but he was also big in the new Hollywood film movement, which happened when people in Hollywood were kind of noticing, hey, some people are more interested in more darker movies and shows, which they weren't doing at the time. So to give some more chances to those people, and so you get like Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, and a lot of people in that new Hollywood movement become some of the most highly acclaimed Western filmmakers. And again, really beautiful movie, and I really liked. Let me check the cast. Yeah, Martin Sheen was in the movie. I don't really know much about him specifically, but yeah, Lawrence Fishburne, Marlon Brando, Harrison Ford. Great movie, great soundtrack. It begins with like a Doors song. Also, you can tell just how insane some of these people are. And yeah, this is actually one of the first war movies I'd ever watched at the time. And yeah, there's the scariness and dreadfulness. It's present at all times. Even when you think you're past the dread, the situation it always gets worse. War never changes. And so that was Apocalypse Now. Number 12 on the list is The Human Condition, Part 3, A Soldier's Prayer. After the Japanese defeat to the Russians, Kaji, who is the main character in the Human Condition trilogy, leads the last remaining men through Manchuria. Intent on returning to his dear wife and his old life, Kaji faces great odds and a variety of different harrowing circumstances as he and his fellow men sneak behind enemy lines. This movie out of the trilogy is one of the best, for obvious reasons when you watch it, the whole trilogy. It's such it's so immersive, so cold, so calculated. I feel like this whole trilogy, again, this was a big, massive project by Masaki Kobayashi, adaptation of novels. Not to mention each movie was like separated into like almost two different parts. I feel like, or at least I can kind of like I think there was different parts um, of like you'd watch like one of the movies halfway and then it'll say part two, then the rest of the movie. And yeah, the accumulation of the final part of the trilogy is amazing, really emotional, just wandering. And again, when I feel like there's so much to kind of comprehend with the movie or show, I feel like that's a good win. If I can really have my mind pondering about what I've seen, what I've watched, the ideas, I can think about the characters, the situations that are going through these people's heads. Um, I feel like that's definitely a bonus to the work. Also, sorry if I'm saying a lot of like ums. It's just, I haven't recorded a video in a long time, and I'm not that good being open and talking to people. But yeah, this was released 1961. So early 60s, but still great. Um, I think it's a World War II movie, right? Probably. I mean, it has Russians and Japanese, and I think that would make sense. Um, the 13th item in the list is a show, Steins Gate, released 2011. A group of friends have customized their microwave so that it can send text messages to the past. As they perform different experiments, an organization named CERN, who has been doing their own research on time travel, tracks them down, and now the characters have to find a way to avoid being captured by them. This is an amazing show. Um, Again, I do love some time travel or time loop shows or movies. I think the main character, Akabi Rentaro, is an amazing character. I can definitely relate to some of his character. Um, I will say, when it first begins, you think it might be just kind of like maybe a comedy or like something that's not like you think it would be like a lighthearted comedy at first, but then let me just say like episode like 12 or something, everything changes and it becomes this like psychological drama, and it gets really emotional, and yeah, it has again one of my favorite main characters in an anime, you know. And I rewatched this with my dad and my mom. And, when I first started watching this show, or like originally, I couldn't finish it. I ended it on like the episode before episode 12 where shit goes real. Um, and I was so mad at past me for not finishing this masterpiece at the time, because when you get to that episode, it's just again so amazing, really amazing. And I mean, the characters are really well written, and it has a sense of, oh my God, that is just really hard to match. Yeah, again, amazing protagonist. That's all I can say. Number 14th on the list is High and Low, released 1963, and it's another movie directed by Akira Kurosawa. In the midst of an attempt to take over his company, A powerhouse executive is hit with a huge ransom demand when his chauffeur's son is kidnapped by mistake. So, this is another example of a great um, story structure. Some of it can take place in mainly just like one room. Sometimes big revelations can happen when it's just them opening a curtain or them getting a phone call. Again, it's a really amazing story. It features Tatsuya Nakade again, and of course other people that are I'm not sure what the word is, but sometimes directors sometimes recast the same actors and actresses in their movies. I guess muses. So it has a lot of Akira Kurosawa's muses as well in this film. And while this isn't a samurai movie, it's a great like police. Uh, would it be police procedural? Um, it's just a great. Um, I guess it's a police procedural, kind of noir thriller mystery movie, and yeah, I just think it's really well done. Especially there's like it's a black and white movie, but there's like a moment in the movie where it's like there's some color in it. I won't spoil it, but because it has some story significance for the color, but yeah, this movie, it's it's really well done. And I watched this with my mom, but she didn't like the ending so much, even though I personally do like the ending. Um, yeah, it's just if you're really into police or detective or crime movies or shows, I definitely recommend this one. I am a big fan of crime, police, detective show movies, just because I'm so interested in mainly detectives, just like finding clues, trying to find out, this story, what happened. Also, sometimes it takes a toll on the detectives, and also, how does the accused or how do they act when they're being investigated as well is interesting. Stuff like that. I always appreciate detective media for delving into that. And my 15th movie on the list is Parasite, released 2019, directed by Bong Joon-ho. So I want to say this is, okay, not the first 2010s media that's featured on the list. That would be Steins Gate, which I mentioned earlier. But this is my on the list of my favorites. This is one of the ones at the top that are like from 2010s. That's like a movie. So this is my favorite like 2010s movie. So as of right now, not to mention this movie won movie of the year at the Oscars. And it was like it was like the first foreign movie to do that. All unemployed, Kai Take's family takes peculiar interest in the wealthy and glamorous Parks for their livelihood until they get entangled in an unexpected incident. Oh, and Parks is like like a last name. It's like a popular South Korean name, not like actual parks like outside, parks. And it features uh, one of my favorite South Korean actors as of right now, Song Kang-ho. He is featured in Memories of Murder and A Taxi Driver, and he does a really amazing job in those movies. And I really, really love this movie. I think that, again, great story structured and great acting. The story, I mean, it's such a super fascinating plot, written really well. The birthday scene, when that happens, it's amazing just because it's like accumulation of everything that's been building up to that point. And you can easily understand why a lot of people say this is like one of the best films of the 2010s. Like, it was just so thrilling. Again, much to unpack. I've been using that words a lot in my Letterboxd reviews, so I guess I must really like it when I'm like, again, really pondering, really fixated on the aspects of the movies and shows. If I can, do that, then I feel like, I'm really enjoying what I'm watching. And again, again, this story takes, turns, and it features, again, really good scenes. The ketchup trash scene is really amazing. Uh, and you could probably Google that without being spoiled into what a lot of the movie is really about. But yeah, it's like again, really amazing film. Bong John Joon Ho. Sorry, I'm bad at some names, but yeah, I've been watching some of his work. I gave Memories of Murder also 10. I'll probably be talking about that soon if there's a follow up to this video. And also watched the movie Mother, which I also really loved. I gave that a 9 out of 10 as of right now. But yeah, really good. Features some family drama, some satire, I think. And yeah, so I just finished talking about my 15 highest ranked movies and shows as of right now on Letterboxd. And well, first thing I'd like to mention, David Lynch, Akira Kurosawa, and Masaki Kobayashi are the ones appearing the most on this on the 1 for 15 list right now. I really enjoy their work. Also, I definitely watch. They're some of my most watched directors as well. Again, if I watch more of these stuff from different directors, maybe the list would be more different. Um, but yeah, there's also you may have noticed a kind of emphasis on like some war or battle stuff. Again, I think it's just really interesting in the story front. How humans deal with these things. Uh, and again, a big emphasis on, again, Japanese animation, Steins Gate, another anime show. You may have also noticed some of these films are from like the 60s, High and Low, The Human Condition, Free, um, Harakiri. So, take that into account. But yeah, I will say you can also see I love a lot of foreign movies and shows. I think it's good to see stuff from, other cultures as well. And yeah, I want to say that's everything I wanted to talk about. Um, Again, there's probably a lot that I should have mentioned or talked about more into detail. Um, Again, I just feel like I just love movies and shows. I give a lot of things 10 out of 10 as of right now. Again, when I watch more movies, I'll probably be giving less things 10 out of 10s the more I watch. But I'm really trying my best to watch some stuff that are, really high quality and stuff I feel like I would really enjoy watching at the time. And yeah, that's all I want to talk about. Maybe um, check out one of these films if you, um, again, can handle it. I mean, some of these films might be easy to handle, but, again, I just want to give that little warning out there for my family watching this video. But yeah, I just talked about my Letterboxd favorite movies slash shows, 1 to 15. Um, yeah, I hope everyone has a good day. Um, Love you. Have a good night.